Alright, so in this video we're going to take a look at Haven Protocol and just kind of see if we can take a look and get an understanding of what they're doing and kind of what they're all about, and is it something that makes sense to invest into. What kind of potential can we determine that it might or might not have, those types of things. So I'm on Coin Paprika here. As of right now, um, I'm not sure how accurate this is. They're around 150, give or take 10 spots as far as market cap goes, but they've just been going crazy for the last month here, over 500% in the last 30 days of gains. So what is going on? Why is this happening? So on their website, when I went there, the first thing that stood out to me was their tagline that says, "Be your own offshore bank." They hooked me right there. Like, that to me sounds very interesting. So what does that mean, and what does Haven do, and how do they do that? So looking at a Medium article here, we can get a better idea that says Haven is an untraceable cryptocurrency. They're basically a fork of Monero, and they propose a mix of standard market pricing and stable fiat value storage without an unsustainable peg or asset backing. This is something that is huge that we've never seen before with cryptocurrencies, and in my opinion, um, this is what cryptocurrencies are all about. Blockchain is all about, that technology is about enhancing the way that we're able to do things. It's a trustless form of doing a lot of things, but as far as cryptocurrencies go, this is key right here as far as I'm concerned. And this is a game changer. This is the first time that this is will have ever existed in cryptocurrencies, and in my opinion, this is huge, which is why I wanted to talk about this coin here. That doesn't mean that it doesn't mean I'm 100% convinced that this thing is going to be successful. That we determine through just watching the markets. But from a fundamental aspect, this is a very, very exciting project. So it says that it's going to achieve this by using built-in on-chain smart contracts that control the minting and burning of coins to facilitate the value for users that choose to send their coins to offshore storage contracts, while allowing everyone else to be exposed to the natural price movements of the underlying Haven currency. So the people that want to stay in Haven will be in Haven, and Haven will fluctuate according to normal, market forces. And then those people that want to can send their Haven to essentially what they're calling offshore storage, which will give it a stable fiat value, so that they're essentially, the cryptocurrency doesn't fluctuate. So it says Haven is a fork of Monero, so it inherits the stealth and anonymity that it's famous for. Monero is really considered to be one of the best privacy coins out there. Now, privacy coins are important because for a lot of reasons, a lot of which is due to, we can see with current situations and the direction things are going, they're definitely going to be pushing a digital currency on people, and with that, it's going to be obviously centralized, and you're going to be able to be tracked and traced and followed, and you can have your funds taken out by anybody at any time they want. If they don't like you or your ideas, or they think that you're up to no good, or and it can be non-legitimate reasons too. We don't need that. We need to maintain our privacy. That's important. Obviously, criminals love that kind of stuff, but I mean, give me a break. That's a tiny percent of what's going on. You can outlaw this kind of stuff all you want. You're not going to stop the criminals. Criminals are always going to be there. They're always going to find a way to circumvent the system. Doesn't matter how many laws you put. The laws are there to control the people, not stop the criminals. I mean, these people making the laws, half of them are bigger criminals than the criminals they're trying to make laws supposedly against anyways. So it says Haven also has the benefit of starting the blockchain from scratch with Ring CT for extra privacy. Further, Haven's offshore storage smart contract allows privacy-conscious individuals that want to keep their money in an untraceable currency without being subject to market fluctuations a means to do so. Again, we've never ever had this ability to do this before. So it says Haven doesn't rely on a peg to maintain a relationship with fiat currency and can be traded at any value without affecting those who want to maintain the relationship. It does this via a built-in smart contract called offshore storage. So sending Haven to offshore storage essentially burns the Haven and creates the fiat equivalent, which will be called the XUSD, and it'll be pegged to the dollar. So it records a reference on the blockchain to the current fiat value, which they'll be getting through Chainlink Oracle, and it can be restored later back into Haven by minting new Haven coins to the tune of the current fiat value. So you can go back and forth between the two as you see fit. So one of the things that was a concern for me back in the prime of the last bull market in late 2017 or really early 2018 is when this was really weighing heavy on my mind, was what do I do with my money? Because I did make a lot of money, and you can't just pull that out and start throwing that kind of money around. I mean, there's a lot you have to think about that I had never thought about before because I had not made that kind of money. One of the main things that you're thinking about are, how do I protect that money? What am I going to do about the tax situation? All those types of things. And a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, one of the things that crosses their mind is, well, I won't pay. I'll play dumb. I'll wait until they let me know that I need to pay. I mean, the laws have just been, terrible to try and understand. And then some people go even farther and say, you know what, they can, if they want the money, they can come and try and get it. It's cryptocurrency. Good luck. They can't get into my Bitcoin address and that kind of thing. And that's a fair assessment. I mean, I'm not, I'm a big proponent of that there needs to be a better system for this whole thing. It's not that I don't want to, part with my money. I'd rather give 100% of my money to a charity that's going to do something, to help people, a good charity, not like a fraudulent, not like the Clinton Foundation, but like a legitimate charity, that's going to help people. I'd rather give all my money to a charity than give 30 or 40% to like the IRS or some corrupt, government, and let them just, put it in their pockets and put it into, black projects or do whatever they want to do with it. All this nonsense that we don't like. And furthermore, I mean, it should be apparent to everybody now. It probably isn't, but when we see people, like the U.S. government, for example, in the middle of a so-called pandemic that they want to, they shut down the entire economy. So they say, oh, well, now we have to do something. So let's go ahead and create some stimulus for the economy. So they go ahead and they print up almost $10 trillion out of thin air, in the span of less than 3 months. So everybody at this point should be scratching their head and saying, well, wait a second, if our government can just print up $10 trillion out of thin air, then what the hell do they need my tax money for? That I work my ass off for and spend all, 40 or 50 hours a week of my time grinding it out to make this money, and then they want to take like 50% of it. That doesn't make any sense. There has to be a better way. One of the ways that we can do that, is, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if we give people with criminal intent or people with a lot of power, even more power, they're just going to abuse it. That's what the saying goes, right? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the only way to get it back is to take it back. They're not going to give it back to us. We need to take it back. And one of the things that cryptocurrencies has done is given people the ability to take back the power of that the banks have taken from us, and the ability just to abuse the financial system. But there's been a gap, right? That gap could now be filled with something like this. Because if you just want to store your money in Bitcoin, well, then you potentially, or even worse, an altcoin, then you potentially just have to watch your equity drop 80 to 90% or more, as the cryptocurrencies go up and down because they are so volatile. If you have what Haven is proposing, then you could avoid that completely. You could take your money, leave it in cryptocurrency, leave it in a private anonymous state, transfer it over to their offshore storage, have it be pegged to the dollar while being completely anonymous and untraceable and private and not linked to anybody. Essentially, the money just vanishes into thin air. And then when you feel the markets have changed and it's time to go back and you want to put your money back in and speculate, you can just transfer it back over and it's still pegged to the dollar. You haven't lost your value. This is unbelievably huge. I mean, I can't stress enough how big this is. So when we look down here, the total supply, we have 18,400,000 coins before tail emissions. And then this is interesting as well because this will be a fluctuating dynamic amount. When people send coins to offshore, the XUSD, they will be burning Haven. So those coins will be burned and they'll disappear from supply. When they transfer back, New Haven will be minted at that time. So this will be a constant fluctuating scenario. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, everything else is basically similar to Monero here. We know that they are just getting ready to release the XUSD and make that go live, which is why we're seeing this growth here, is because that information came out. And so now we're seeing this kind of growth, and so people are getting excited based on that news. So if we look at these statistics here, 18 million coins. Haven, like we saw right now, is about $2.50. If this coin was to become as successful as Monero, let's look at Monero on CoinMarketCap here. Monero is currently at $64, right? The metrics, the coin metrics are the same, essentially. I mean, if anything, right now, Haven, it has less circulating supply by about 5 million, but even though it's the max supply is about the same. Monero at its peak back here in late 2017, early 2018, if we look at the all-time high, that was almost $500 for Monero. So what potential does Haven have, right? If Haven were to become as successful as Monero, which I believe it could be unless they really screw things up, that could put a potential future price on Haven at between $60 and $500, just according to the basic coin metrics. And we all know, I mean, most people would expect at least that on the next big bull run, prices are going to exceed what they were in the past. They're not just going to get up to the old levels and stop there. Yeah, they could, right? But most people aren't expecting Bitcoin to go to 20,000 and that's it. They're expecting Bitcoin to go to 200,000 or 7 figures. So if Monero goes up 10 times, well then, I mean, Monero could be a $5,000 coin in the next year or two or whatever, at the next market peak. So that means, I mean, in theory, just according to the coin metrics, Haven could be a $5,000 coin or somewhere around there. So you've got this enormous potential for growth on this coin. Potential, I say, everything is going to vary according to how people, receive the coin. But with what they're doing, I mean, you just have to look at, right now the hot topic is decentralized finance. This is a decentralized finance coin, and in my opinion, this is the ultimate decentralized finance. I don't care about loaning money for 30% interest if I can get 100% gains on a couple of trades during a month. It doesn't make sense to do that, and I'm certainly not interested in taking out any loans. I mean, I never understood that. To me, it looks like the only people taking out loans are using those loans to loan that money back and try and get interest on that. So it's like this self-generating thing. I mean, borderline Ponzi type of situation where money's going in. It's just turning around between the same group of people. That stuff can't last for very long. There's a limit to that. So when people start using these loans for legitimate purposes, such as businesses and stuff like that, then that will be legitimate in my opinion. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what the heck's going on with that. But nonetheless, it is a hot topic, and I think that with this ability to have the world's first anonymous stablecoin, that's going to be huge because now you can take profits, you can keep them in crypto, you can keep them anonymous, and you can put them into a stablecoin as needed. If we look at a weekly chart on Haven, we can see that their peak back here, this was like in, I guess that'd be like September of 2018, yeah, 2018 or so. It was just under $5. So where are they going to go from here? Well, I've got a line marked on the chart here, a vertical line. This line represents July 20th. Okay, this is when the XUSD will basically go live and you can start offshoring your Haven. Now, I don't know, I mean, we've had this huge rise, right? So we can expect a pullback at some point. It has to do that. That's just how the markets work. You know, what's over 800% from this low down here in March? That's pretty ridiculous. But you also have to remember that these coins can do those types of things. These coins can go up 2,500% without taking a break. But that's usually only during, when the mania starts, and we haven't quite started that yet. So will we get a sell-off somewhere before this yellow line? Um, Probably. In the meantime, we could just have, little sell-offs like we have here before, the buying interest comes back. It's definitely getting a lot of excitement right now. I have a line here just over $3. This represents the weekly chart, basically a resistance created back here in late 2018. That may be a area that we bounce off of where some heavy profit taking starts to show up. But if we look at the monthly chart, there's really no resistance left. We've already blown through this level right here. We did that with this candle here in June. So there's a potential that we go up to $3. This thing could really get some momentum behind it and spike up to $5, before July 20th. It's really hard to say. But it's definitely a coin that I'm going to keep a close eye on, in the coming days, weeks, and months. And I'll be honest, there's a good chance that I'll be, utilizing the Haven protocol just for their offshore process. Because what else are you going to do with your money? You're going to put it into Tether and trust that? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, you could use USDC, you could use DAI. I mean, those are all fine, but I mean, those all, if you want your privacy, and I think people are going to start to understand the value of that, more and more as we move forward in time. Right now, Haven is the only one. They'll be the first and only fully private, fully anonymous stablecoin, and the fact that you can just move back and forth between those will just be huge. Now, in the future, so they'll start out with the XUSD, but moving forward, they'll also have other assets backed, stable assets backed, or that we peg to other fiat currencies such as the euro and the yen and the pound. They'll have it backed with gold. They'll have it backed with Bitcoin, and these will all be, basically like synthetic assets, but they'll be pegged to that asset. They'll be fully anonymous and private. So let's say if you have, you want to transfer your crypto into euros, you can do that. Or if you want to transfer it into gold because you think gold is going to go up in value, versus some other stuff, or you're in Haven, but you think that, it's about to take a breather and maybe drop a little bit, but you still like Bitcoin and where that's going, so you can transfer over to Bitcoin. So it won't be physical Bitcoin, but it'll be an anonymous version of Bitcoin pegged to that Bitcoin value, and you can transfer back and forth as needed. And all this takes place within your own wallet. So like you don't even have to move your Haven back to an exchange just to sell back into Bitcoin or just to buy a stable coin. This transaction happens right within your own wallet. And that is what is key here, I think, is that you have that additional layer of privacy and that additional layer of security of not having to transfer your funds back and forth, not having to use the exchange. You can just go back and forth between fiat, between Bitcoin, between gold, whatever stable assets they have right within your own wallet. So I mean that is going to be huge. If this option was available to me back in January of 2018, I would have immediately done that. I would have put like a huge chunk of my money right into the XUSD stablecoin, or maybe into a gold stablecoin if that was there. If those options were available to just take that money and make it disappear and sit on the sidelines until I was ready to utilize it again, that would be the way to do it. And that's why I think this is so potentially big. So this is definitely one to keep a close eye on. This type of growth that we've seen right here, is definitely, it looks a little scary to think about buying this coin at these kind of levels because there is a pullback. But when I look at it, if you just readjust your perspective here, all of a sudden this doesn't look that scary. If you look at potential here, if this thing goes to $10 or something like that, this is nothing. This is just barely a warm-up if we really start going parabolic. So you could approach this, in different ways depending on your level of or your risk appetite and how you want to go about it. If you want to wait for a pullback, you can do that. This may be a pullback right here, or it could just be a small retracement before we go higher. There's really no way to know until it happens. So you could just start buying little bits over time, or you could just, kind of wait for a pullback and go in, or you could just decide, you know what, I'm going to hold this long term because I think long term we'll get to $5 or $10 or $50 or whatever, and you could just put in some now. Of course, you don't put in more than you're willing to lose, unless you're extremely nimble and know what you're doing. Then maybe you can put in whatever you want. So this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you what you should do. You got to make that decision. But definitely, I think this is an interesting coin here. And according to the coin metrics, I think that this thing has some room to go. I don't see any reason why this couldn't get up to Monero levels. If we go up to $60, that's a 2,000% gain. And that would be, that, in my opinion, on the low end. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.